I wanted to give you a little bit of an introduction into my next video. What I'm talking about, let's be honest, it's a little bit of a cliche, because I'm talking about trains. And yes, when I was a boy, I really loved trains. Trains were very important to me. And there was a railroad track right behind my house, and I only saw one train go down that track. But the guy in the caboose waved at me. That was the most awesome thing ever, and I wanted to be an engineer. But you know what? I never got to be a train engineer because I never got a pair of striped coveralls. And that prevented me from becoming a train engineer for my whole life. What a tragedy. Anyway, I'm just kidding, although that is exactly how I felt at the time. I am talking about my brain. I am talking about my ADHD and my autism. I'm talking about what I did to make things a little bit less cluttered. Because for me, it was like standing in the middle of a train yard and trying to get across the train tracks. And that was driving me crazy. I couldn't do that. So this is my intro. I'm talking about trains, and I'm talking about what I did in my brain with all the bullet trains that are running constantly to help me maintain my sanity. I'll see you on the other side. Hey there. Today, I wanted to talk about my personal experience with AuDHD. I have a few interesting things I think you might find maybe possibly of some use to you. Anyway, I'm not a doctor. I don't pretend to be a doctor. I was an architectural designer. I designed custom homes, and I enjoyed that thoroughly. And then later on, I also did technical support in German, as I speak German. My self-discovery, trying to find out who I am and why I am the way I am, because I knew I was different. That was not a question. Chaos abounded in my life. I discovered that I kind of kept things in a chaotic state, because that allowed it allowed my ADHD at least to function. At any rate, I discovered, metaphorically, trying to cross the street was very dangerous, because crossing my street meant that I had to try to dodge bullet trains constantly. My brain was going 1,000 miles an hour all the time, and it really created some chaos, I'll tell you that much. And it was really difficult to understand what was going on and how to deal with it. But what I finally figured out was that I needed to take all of my bullet trains and drop them underground. And I created a train station, one train station where I could drop my thoughts off and pass them off to my subconscious. Let them work on them for a while, and if they had something to deliver back to me, then they would put it back up on the train station, and then I would go down and pick it up periodically and review the information that they had provided. And if I needed to clarify it, then I would put it back, and then they would keep working with it until they gave me what I was looking for, which is it's worked out really well, actually. But then I realized that on the surface, in spite of moving my bullet trains down into the train station, into a subway system, I still had civil war going on at the top. So that made things very interesting. So what I finally figured out how to do, and this has only been in the last couple of years that I figured this out, I created or negotiated a ceasefire between ADHD and my autism. And what that ceasefire looks like is when I'm going to an event, and if it's something that is highly stimulating, then I let ADHD take the forefront. They take over. Autism steps back and waits. with the promise that I will take care of it and that I will provide for its need at a future point. Probably by that evening or the next day, then I will definitely set aside time to recover and to work with the autism so that it doesn't feel like it's left out. So they're no longer fighting. And it has worked out remarkably well. I have been incredibly happy with it. Since that's been working, I came up with an idea of what if I could get them to talk to each other and possibly help each other out and learn from each other. That didn't go over so well. Neither one of them wanted to talk to the other. It was not something that they were willing to do until this last week. But I figured out a way to get them to talk to each other. But first I had to identify who they both were. And so I started talking to each of them and trying to figure that out. It was really quite remarkable. I discovered that the ADHD was trying to protect the autism from a lot of the pain and suffering by manifesting itself in different ways. And of course, autism could not tolerate that and couldn't stand that, and so it was fighting back. It was kind of like a sibling rivalry. The older brother being the autism, and the younger one that was constantly teasing and harassing, or it could have been the opposite, was the ADHD. But it was trying to protect. Actually, I think the ADHD was probably the older of the two, and it was trying to protect the autism and to keep it from being hurt. Then I took a look at it a little bit deeper, and I discovered something even more remarkable in the whole communication between the two. ADHD would wander around in the forest surrounding the city and discover beautiful things and remarkable creatures and flowers and scents and anything that was stimulating. The autism, on the other hand, that was a different story. It felt it had to protect the city at all costs, and so it was the defender. And anything that approached the city, it would fire upon and try to destroy it, at minimum scare it off. So nothing was welcome to come, and everything was forced to flee. And I discovered that there was a moat around the city, which, makes sense. That's a form of protection. And that there was a drawbridge. But autism never let the drawbridge go down, ever. It was not going to allow anything into the city and possibly harm it. But ADHD was constantly trying to get autism's attention and say, hey, look what I found, look what I found. And autism would just fire on it, with that attempt to destroy it and to hide the city from anybody or anything. But I just made a huge discovery when I was speaking with my therapist. As I was talking with them, it just finally opened up in my mind that if I make ADHD the gatekeeper and autism will remain the defender, but ADHD will communicate with autism to let them know if someone is friend or foe. And if they are a friend, then we determine whether they're just invited into the forest to wander around and see the beautiful things there, or if they truly are an ally, into the city. And possibly get to know autism, which would be a completely awesome experience. So that is where I'm at right now. I'm working on learning how to communicate between my ADHD and my autism. And I find it fascinating that they're both open to the idea and that they're both willing to communicate in those terms. And it's a remarkable experience that I'm starting to explore. Like I said, I just discovered that a few days ago. Remember to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. That would be fantastic. And I promise I've got more information coming soon. To close this video, I've chosen to simply say, let's talk, let's listen. Everyone has a story to tell. Goodbye.